Hello and welcome to the Wholistically PsychEd podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Choate, a nationally certified school psychologist turned stay-at-home mom who now has the freedom to share what school districts don't want you to know after spending over a decade in the field of education. My goal is to help you learn all you need to know about special education that districts often gatekeep. Each episode will dive into how commonly laws are blatantly broken and tips on leveraging special education law to support best practice for students and teachers alike. We'll also feature interviews with parents and educators who are navigating these challenges head-on, along with those who are making strides to improve this broken system. This channel is for you, parents of students with suspected or diagnosed disabilities who already have or might need individualized education plans or 504 plans. It's also for teachers, counselors, and fellow school psychologists who are feeling the strain of a system that often leaves us feeling burnt out and overwhelmed. So if you're ready to learn, advocate, and empower yourself, child, or students, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wholistically PsychEd, the podcast where we get real about the wins, the challenges, and everything in between when it comes to supporting our neurodivergent students and educators in public education. I'm your host, Mariah Choate, and today's guest is Stephanie DeLussey. She's a veteran special education teacher who turned her expertise into a business that's helped educators navigate the messy, beautiful world of IEPs. She's the founder of the Intentional IEP, an Instagram powerhouse and supportive hub for special ed teachers. She's an author and a coach who has walked the walk, and now she's helping others do the same with more clarity and confidence. Stephanie, welcome to Wholistically PsychEd.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, so let's go back to the very beginning. How did the Intentional IEP come to be? Was there like a moment you realized, okay, I have to create this?
Yeah, so when I left the traditional classroom setting, I really struggled to find my place in education outside of the four walls of having a classroom. And so I had Mrs. D's Corner, and I was still working on Mrs. D's Corner things, and that was more of academic lessons and units and planning and things like that. But I have always been the weirdo that really loves all of the paperwork that comes with writing IEPs. And so I just remember, and it was actually 5 years ago, we're getting ready to celebrate our 5-year anniversary at the Intentional IEP on May 4th. And I just remember, I was like, I love writing IEPs, and I love it. And I know a lot of teachers don't like it. I know that I'm the oddball here, and I don't want to make teachers love it, but I know that I can share what I know and help them be more effective and efficient at it, and maybe not love it, but maybe like it just a little bit, because it's really not that bad. And once you get it down, it clicks. And it just becomes rote and part of everything that you do. And so that is where the Intentional IEP was built from. And we started out with our IEP goal bank, and then we've moved into doing trainings. And now we have like our summer PD series, and we have member resources, and we're getting ready to launch our own podcast. And so a lot has come from just my love of writing IEPs as an IEP weirdo. So maybe I should have called it the IEP weirdo, but the Intentional IEP was born that way.
I love that. That is so funny. Yeah, it's definitely not common that a special education teacher likes the paperwork.
No, not at all.
Stepping out of that role of the classroom and kind of stepping into the role of business owner / content creator, did you have any fears or challenges in that process?
I went through a lot of therapy. Because there was some trauma that I had when I had left the traditional classroom setting, and there were reasons for me leaving mid-year. And I've talked openly about that, not all of the pieces of it, but parts of it. And so I don't know that I had any fears. I think that I dealt with a lot of shame from my own self and a lot of disappointment from my own self. But then I also heard voices from people that I had previously worked with, people that I was supposedly friends with, people in the social media space that were very vocal about when I left the classroom, I didn't share it because that was how I chose to survive those moments, was I was trying to figure it out myself. And so I had to deal with not only being diagnosed with severe anxiety right after I left the classroom, and the PTSD from the trauma that I had received, had whatever you want to call it, while I was in the classroom, and that all of the leaving. So I went through a lot. It took me quite a few years of therapy to kind of work through just a lot of what my own internal self was saying about me leaving the classroom and what that looked like, because it's not very traditional. But then also just what everyone else was saying about it. And now I feel like now I'm in a good place. I feel like I've been in a good place for probably 2 or 3 years mentally, where I know that this is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And it doesn't look, how when I graduated high school and I went to college and you think, oh, I'm going to be in the same classroom for 35 years, because this is what our teachers did when we were growing up, right? Like the 4th grade teacher was always the 4th grade teacher, and you would have her, and then your brother would have her, or your siblings, and you would graduate high school, and then you would come back and visit, and she would still be the 4th grade teacher. Like that's not the same as it was when we were growing up. And so I really had to overcome a lot of things, again, not just from people outside of my own brain, but a lot of hurdles in my own brain of just being okay with who I am, what I've been through, my journey, and being okay with not being in a classroom, but still making a difference in education.
Yeah, you're making me think of like the Mr. Feeney teachers.
Yes.
Like from Boy Meets
exactly.
World. Just like follow the whole family. That's definitely hard. Are you going to share a little bit about like that trauma and stuff on your podcast when it starts?
I haven't thought through that yet. I have talked about it on other podcast episodes that I've done on other podcasts. I've written a little bit about it on the Mrs. D's Corner blog, and in my Instagram highlights on Mrs. D's Corner, I have some highlights where I do talk about that and like my anxiety seasons and things like that. So, there are some things that will always just be for me that I will never share, to protect the children that I worked with and the families that I worked with, and just myself. But I have talked a little about it. It's been a while, honestly, since I've really talked about it. But there are some things out there that I have done where I've talked about it.
I just want to like validate that it is very real. That when you say trauma, like I can guarantee, I don't know the full story, but I can guarantee you're not using that lightly.
No, yeah. I texted one of my friends last night, and we were laughing over some teacher humorous posts and things, and I was like, I just remember saying to her, and it was actually last night, and I just said, does me laughing like till the point of tears, crying, laughing so hard mean that I have teacher trauma? And she was like, yep, it does. And I was like, okay, I accept that. Like it's there.
Oh man. Okay, so what was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make when leaving the classroom and entering kind of this new space?
The biggest thing that going to therapy and my therapist helped me realize was that the 4 walls of a classroom aren't what makes me a teacher. That was really hard for me to personally overcome, just because of my own vision of what I thought my teacher life was going to be like and what I thought it was supposed to be like. And so the biggest mindset shift that I had to personally work through for myself was teaching looks a lot of different ways, and you can teach online. And we saw that with COVID, right? Like teachers were at home and teaching kids via Zoom. You have like VipKid, where you were tutoring kids online, and then you have colleges where there's online courses, and you have different classrooms, or you have arenas, or you have coaches who go through and are teaching people. And so that really was the biggest mindset shift that I personally had to work through, was that the 4 walls of a classroom don't make me a teacher. It's my degree makes me a teacher, right? Like I do have a bachelor's degree and I have master's degree credits, and I've taken all of these courses, and I have my certifications for things. And so that's what makes me a teacher. My experience, my love of this, my ability to do this job is what makes me a teacher, not the 4 walls that made a classroom.
Yeah, that reminds me of my husband too, because he like absolutely loved being in public education. But once we had kids, like, and that's what I was going to ask you too, is like, I'm sure it's different knowing like you have a child now at home. Like it's a major mindset shift in knowing that like your priorities can't just be your classroom anymore when you have kids at home. So yeah, like when we had kids, it was like a wake up call to him where he's like, whoa, I was working way more than I ever thought, right? As a teacher that's in a brick and mortar school.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you make resources, and I know you do coaching, and then you kind of do you're going to do a podcast, which is exciting, but you also do like a course type PD series. So how do you feel like all of those things still reflect best practice while also following like the legal expectations?
All of my best friends are actually still in the classroom. So conversations that I have with them, things that kind of are going on in their own classrooms. So even though I am not in the traditional classroom setting, I still do feel very in touch with what is going on in the traditional classroom settings with classroom teachers. I have a Facebook group where I'm asking questions and we have conversations about things that they're struggling with. I'm in a lot of other Facebook groups where I see, teachers asking questions, what they're struggling with. So I do that not only so that I can provide help and assistance that way, but also so I can learn what's still going on as a traditional classroom teacher. But I read a lot of education books, and I don't want to say for fun, but it really is for fun. Again, IEP weirdo, like I love reading, I love reading really anything, but I love reading books about education where I'm learning something. And so I also recently joined the Council for Exceptional Children, and they do a bunch of webinars. So I'm still attending webinars. I'm still going to conferences. Districts aren't paying me to go. I am paying for myself to go at this point now so that I can keep up with what's going on in the world of education. And I also follow, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, other thought leaders that are within education, maybe in the classroom and out of the classroom. I'll follow them on social media just to kind of keep in touch with what's still going on, just so that I know that what I'm the resources that I'm creating, the trainings that I'm doing, the future podcast episodes that will come out are going to be helpful and not just be like a fairy dust and unicorns and rainbows, like in the best case scenario world, you should do this. Like, yes, that's practical too, but like what's really going to help teachers? And so that's why I still do trainings and am in Facebook groups and read all of these books, because I think that that's still helpful.
I think I saw that on one of your stories. You were like reading a random like educational book for fun.
I was.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that's great. I love that.
I don't have any on my desk at this point in time. I do actually have this, though. It's the Exceptional Children CEC. They send this out. It's the volume 91 from April 2025. I haven't read it yet, but it's like this is not fun stuff that people read for fun. But I will read this for fun. Like, so funny, all the stuff that teachers don't want to do, I do it for them, and then I report back and share that information because it is fun for me. So
yeah, I love that. That is so nice. So let's transition to talk about your book. I see it right behind you on your shelf.
Yes. Yes.
So what inspired you to write it, and what can readers expect from it?
Yeah, so the publisher reached out to me. The book is 1 year and 3 months old now, I think. And so it took me about 9 months to write it. And so they had reached out to me, I guess, almost about 2 years ago. And at first I was like, I don't really know if I want to do that. I had already, the Intentional IEP was there. I had started a course. And then the more I'm thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to submit this proposal for the book just to see what happens. And if it works out, then I'll write it. And if not, no harm, no foul. And so they ended up accepting my proposal, and I wrote the book, and the Intentional IEP book was born. And so in that book, we talk about everything from writing the IEP to implementation to the IEP meeting to data collection, data analysis, and then circling that all the way back around to writing the IEP. So it really talks about the IEP writing process, the data collection process, the implementation process in a collaborative way. I'm very big on IEP team members collaborating, most importantly, teachers and parents together. And so the book gives a lot of really helpful tips and tricks and advice that you can use tomorrow or today in your classroom. And they're really easy to implement. And so that's what I wanted to bring to our world of special education, was just something that simplified the IEP process and what to do, when to do it, how to do it, but also how to collaborate with other team members, because I think that that's so vital in the success of our students.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's probably the biggest stumbling block to like a successful IEP is like the lack of collaboration, or just like that tension that you have in the team could be so difficult. Yeah. So like you said, you're all about simplifying that IEP process, but not at the expense of best practice, obviously. Can you walk us through how you help educators do that in the current difficult climate that is the public school system right now?
Yeah, and I was just having a conversation. I was on a training before this, having a conversation with another educator about this. And I think that the work that we're doing as teachers now in and out of the classroom matters more now than it ever has. And I will stand by that, regardless of, what's going on in education. We are always going to matter. I know AI is a huge thing right now, and I'm learning more about it so that I can help teachers utilize it and be more effective and efficient with using it and all of the things. But really, it just comes down to there's always going to be something, right? And we know this in the classroom. Like, veteran teachers will tell you, just leave your work at school. Like, it's always going to be there tomorrow. There's always going to be something else to do. In public education, there's always going to be something that's going to come next, whether it's the closure of the DOE, or it's COVID is shutting schools down, or it's the funding isn't there, or whatever it is. There's always something that's going to come next, and it's never going to stop. And so I always just try to put it in the frame of mind is that, like I said, what we're doing right now, it matters so much. And so I always try to keep that in the back of mind and at the forefront of everything that I do is that, yeah, there really are big things going on in the world of education. There truly always are and always will be. I do feel that strongly. But if we as teachers and we as advocates and we as IEP team members are doing our job to the best of our ability and doing it for the right reasons, doing it for the kids, then that's what's always going to be best, regardless of all the other noise that's going on around us.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think in my perspective as a school psychologist, like having the legal background is so helpful because it's like best practice will always line up with a legally sound law of why that was initially put in place.
Yeah.
So it's just like a nice guide, I guess. So what are a few practical strategies or mindset shifts that help teachers write stronger, more intentional IEPs without the burnout?
Yeah, so I have two things that I think are really helpful here. And the first one, I'll start with the mindset shift. And so let me give you the example. As special education teachers, we often, and I'll give you an example from when I was in the classroom. I taught in the same district for 3 years, and we moved around a lot. So I've taught in a lot of different states and different schools. But I was in the same school for 3 years in the same position, and every single year, at the beginning of the year, district came in and was like, "We want IEP goals written this way." And then the next year it changed. We want it written this way. And then the next year it changed. We want it written this way. And I'm like, can we just pick one? Can we just pick one? And so I share this example because there is a difference between laws, there's a difference between regulations, policies that school districts have, and then habits that get passed down to us. And so a lot of times things that we hear come down from admin are school policy and or habits, whether they're good or bad, that have been passed down just because this is how we've always done it. And so back to knowing what the law says and knowing what the regulations say and knowing what best practice is, you want to lead with that and not with a habit. And are you going to ruffle some feathers? Maybe. But when you're leading back to that, always doing what's right and doing what's best for the kids, when you're leading with that, that is when you have that at your forefront of your mind, I'm doing what's best for the kids. This is legally what IDEA says. This is what a state regulation says. Those always trump school policy and school habits. And so having that mindset shift is going to really help you in determining no, this is what the law says, or no, I'm really not going to do that because that's a really bad habit. And then that also leads into the practical strategy that I have for you. And it took me a lot of years to figure out this whole, I call it my IEP writing timeline. It took me a lot of years to figure it out because I was in different states, different schools, all of the things. But once you realize that the IDEA and the state regulations are all abided to by timelines, the work that you do leading up to the IEP meeting and writing that IEP are pretty much the same no matter where you go. Some dates might shift a little bit, but it really helps you simplify the IEP process when you have your own IEP writing timeline and you're like, okay, 45 days out, I need to start thinking about scheduling this IEP meeting. I need to start at 30 days, maybe sending out those input forms and then getting that input back. And then I'm going to start writing the IEP while I'm waiting for those input forms to come back. I'm going to write that present level section. And then one thing I get the most praise, but also the most pushback on is sending home that draft IEP. And we won't talk about it here, but sending out that proposed draft IEP a minimum of 3 school days prior to the IEP meeting to level that playing field, and reaching out to families prior to see if they have questions, and then having the meeting. And there's so many things that you can strategically do leading up to the IEP meeting that aren't going to change IEP to IEP. Like, it's going to be the same thing. And once you have that process down, it just becomes, you're like, okay, well, Stephanie's IEP is coming up due here at the end of May. It's the middle of April, so that I know I probably should start thinking about scheduling her IEP meeting. And I should probably start sending out those IEP input forms so that I can get data from other team members, which means here in about 2 weeks, I need to start writing that present levels. Maybe not finish it, but I need to start writing it to put all of that data in. So maybe now I need to start gathering all of her data points. And so once you have that process down, it's really going to simplify what the rest of your IEP process looks like. Your IEP meetings are going to run smoother because you have everything organized. The implementation is going to be there because you're going to have a system for it. And so I think that's truly the best thing, the best strategy that I have. And then that mindset shift of just in your mind determining what the difference is from laws and regulations and then school policies and school habits. Once you can determine the difference between those and you have a set system in place, it's really just going to set you up for the paths for success for writing IEPs and really implementing them too.
I love that was like a twofold. I know it was a difficult question because it was like very broad, but I love that twofold of like the mindset shift, but also like how to actually practically work through a process and have a system. That's so helpful. I know, speaking of kind of that pushback that you might get from admin, it's like, okay, this isn't actually law, but it's just what we've been doing day in, day out, whatever, year in, year out. I think that's so common, and educators don't always know where to go or how to like fact check in some ways, like the admin that are above them, because you could get reprimanded or you can get in trouble or whatever. So speaking more to like admin districts, what do you wish that they understood more about supporting special educators?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding that support looks different to every teacher. And I was on this other podcast with 2 principals and we were talking about it. And it was a really, really good conversation. And they asked me the same question. They're like, well, how can admin support special ed teachers? And I said the same thing. What support looks like for me is going to look very different from what support looks like for you, because I may be confident and I might have an IEP writing system, my IEP writing timeline down, and I know what to do by when, but my next door neighbor teacher might not. And so she might need that level of support. I might need, if I call you for a student, I might need you, like I'm going to call you last minute. Like, you are my last resort. I have tried everything I can to help this student. I need you to come step in. But the teacher next door might call them for everything. And so they need to be able, I know that's such a big job to be able to fulfill and such an important role, but getting to know their staff and understanding where their zones of geniuses are, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and when they really do need help. When you understand that, I think you're going to best be able to support your special education teachers and all of your teachers really as a whole. Because I could say, I would love to be able to wear jeans every day. And the teacher next door would be like, it doesn't matter what I wear as long as I can chase my kid down the hallway, right? Like it's so different teacher to teacher. So I think just getting to know your teachers and knowing where and what supports they need, and at what point they're calling you, they really do need you to step in and not just like send them back with a popsicle, like, no, I really need you to step in here and not give them Legos. Like I've tried everything. You're my last resort.
Right.
So I think that would truly just be helpful.
Do you feel like you had a lot of supportive admin? Because I know, how many states did you teach in?
I have taught in 4 different states, and I've been certified in 6 different states. And I think the last time I counted, I was in 6 or 7 different schools between public and charter schools.
And so knowing all those different, settings and even different states, how do you feel like the admin support was, and like how did it differ between those, or was it pretty much the same?
No, I don't think the state really had anything to do with it. I think it was just the admin themselves. My very first year, my administrator was amazing. And I stand by I left that school because my husband and I got engaged, and so we were getting married, and I moved. I taught in Virginia my first year. My husband lived in Pennsylvania, and so I'm from Pennsylvania, so I moved back home to be with him. But had he decided to move to Virginia, or we had ended up not being together, I still think that I would be at that school. Like, the staff that I worked with, the administration, like, it was just absolutely incredible. And I still have really good friends that I worked with back then. And that was 15 years ago now. So I've worked with some really, really great administrators who, when I've asked for help, they've provided help for me, or told me who to go to next to get that, or who to ask to do this, or given me the opportunity to go shadow another classroom that was similar to mine so I could see what was working. I've also worked in other schools where the administration was less than helpful, or had no special education background. And so I think it really just depends on the administrator. But I've seen both sides of it.
That makes sense. Okay, so now that you're not just a mama, but a business owner, an author, content creator, going to be a podcast host, right?
Yeah.
Doing all the things. How do you personally maintain your own energy and boundaries in the work that you do now?
Yeah, so I used to be the person who, when I was teaching in the traditional classroom, I was still doing Mrs. D's Corner, Teachers Pay Teachers, blog stuff. I would work full time, and then I would come home and I would work, on the couch until I fell asleep. I would work all weekends. I was working. I remember one Christmas where I literally worked all of Christmas Day. Oh my gosh. And so, it was just, I love what I do. And so I pour all of my soul into that. And I have had to set very hard boundaries after many conversations with my husband, and just like, not him being like, you can't do this, but just saying like, I want to hang out with you too. Like, I want to spend time with you. Like, you need to have some off time. Like, and my therapist also saying like, you don't have any hobbies outside of what you do. Like, you need to do something. So I have very hard boundaries where I only work a certain time during the day, and I usually work like 8 to 4-ish, and I don't work Fridays at all. That I used to work Fridays. I don't work Fridays anymore since having my son, because he is only little once, and I want to hang out with him. And so I do all of my work Monday through Thursday, and then I let everybody know, hey, I don't work Fridays, so if you need something, it needs to hit my desk before noon on Thursdays, because if you hit my desk at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a Thursday, I'm not getting to it till Monday. I also run my life as to where your urgent need is not my urgent need. And so if you need something really quick, I need you to let me know that and give me a time frame of when you need it. Otherwise, I will get to it when I get to it, which maybe isn't a good boundary, but that is a boundary that I have, along with, I don't work weekends. I don't work nights anymore, because that is my family time, and nothing trumps my family. They will always be there for me at the end of the day. I will always have my husband. I will always have my son. But I might not always have this work that I do. So whether that be for I leave it and let it go, or I want to do something different. And so I don't work Fridays. I don't work past 4 o'clock. And that has also been very beneficial for my own energy and allowing me to just enjoy life and not have to always be on. But it also has benefited my work life, because I come back refreshed Monday mornings and I'm excited to go to work, because I have allowed myself to have that time off. I
don't know how you feel, but I feel like it was so much easier for me to just like max myself out and like fill in every gap before I had kids.
Yeah.
Even with a husband, I think it's so important to prioritize them, right? But it's just different when you have this tiny little baby
Yeah.
where you're like, oh my gosh, from one week to the next, you're like making a new facial expression.
Yeah.
Or like hitting a new milestone. Like I need
Yeah.
to stop everything, put my phone down, put everything away, and I'm just here with you right now.
Yeah. The whole,
I love that you prioritize
just holding
that.
your baby and looking at them and just staring at them and not wanting to put them in their crib for a nap is real. Like I would just hold him and I don't want to do anything else. I just want to hang out with my husband and with my child. And so I have to allow myself time to do that. So
that's great. I love that. Totally support that. So speaking of all the business stuff, I know you mentioned your podcast a ton. So is there anything new in the works for your business, and maybe share a little bit what your podcast is going to be about?
Yeah, so the only new thing that we currently have going is the podcast, which is not yet released. I haven't even officially announced it yet, so it's kind of I'm like, oh, I'm sharing a big dark secret right now. But the podcast has been something that a friend of mine who also works for me and with me has been wanting me to do for about 3 years, and we had just moved to Florida, and then I got pregnant, and then I was postpartum, and then I just wanted to hang out with him, and now I feel like it's a good time. And this beginning of this year, I was like, all right, I think I want to do the podcast. And so she put that on the fast track. She's like, okay, I know how to do this, this, and this. Let's do all these things. And so we're finally doing the podcast. I'm really excited about it. I do feel like it's a good timing for all of the things that we have going on at the Intentional IEP for our 5-year anniversary. And we're just going to be talking about all things IEPs. So things that you see we post on social media, questions that I see on social media in different Facebook groups or that I get in DMs, we'll do podcast episodes about them. It's just going to be about making writing and implementing IEPs more effective and efficient so you can get back to doing more of what you love, and that's teach. And that is truly our motto at the Intentional IEP, because I know that the paperwork does take over actually teaching. And there's a lot of emphasis on do the paperwork, get all the paperwork done. But I didn't get into education to do the paperwork. I got into education to teach kids. And so that is why I do what I do at the Intentional IEP, is to give teachers back more of their time. I'll read the books, I'll take the trainings, and I will disseminate all of the information to you to tell you what best practices, to tell you yes or no, you can or cannot do that. And here's why, here's the law number, look it up. So you can do more of what you love, and that's teach. And so I'm really passionate about that, and I'm really excited for the podcast.
I can't wait. I'm excited too. And you're going to release it in May?
Yep. So May 5th, it will come out, which again, I haven't announced that yet. So I feel like I'm sharing a dark secret, but I'm not. But May 5th will be the first episode, and we will have weekly episodes. And then starting in the fall, we will start having guests on the podcast. So yeah, the first episode, I guess I'll just tell you, I'll spell all the secrets. The first episode is going to be all about ESY, because ESY is coming up and determinations are being made right now. So I thought, what better thing to start with than talking about ESY determinations?
Nice. That's awesome. I can't wait. Thank you, Stephanie. This has been so incredible. And the work that you do is just such a gift to special education and our whole community. I'm just so grateful for you to be here and to have this conversation. For those that do want to connect with you, maybe check out your book or dive into your resources or the course that you do or the summer PD series, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we are on all the things at the Intentional IEP. So Instagram, I'm not on TikTok, so don't look there. You're not I'm too old for that. The Intentional IEP, Facebook, Instagram, website, theintentionaliep.com. You can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place that sells books, and just search The Intentional IEP and the book will come up. But yeah, all the things, The Intentional IEP.
Thanks again for being here, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're feeling the burnout or the overwhelm, know that you are not alone. There are tools, there is support, and conversations like this is how we keep going together. Until next time, stay grounded, stay intentional, and keep showing up for your kids and yourself.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I would be so grateful if you could share this with anyone you can think of who works in education or happens to have a child with disabilities. If this was helpful for you, make sure to subscribe so you can hear some of the crazy and amazing stories of what is really going on behind the scenes in public education. Until next time, remember, in the famous words of Maya Angelou, each child belongs to all of us, and they bring us a tomorrow in direct relation to the responsibility we have shown to them.